So I bet you're wondering what types of benefits you could expect from different essential oils. This lecture will go over some of the most basic categories, and then I'll give you a few examples of essential oils in each category and their benefits so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about. Each different essential oil is going to be unique. It will have its own personality, just like a person would. So even though the essential oils are going to be in categories for this lecture today, each one within that category is still going to be unique and have different properties and benefits than others in that category. In fact, these are kind of loose categories. It's difficult to really categorize essential oils distinctly because they are so unique to the plant. And in an advanced aromatherapy course, we talk about the energy of essential oils, the yin and yang of them, and that's a good way to think about them as well. But when you're just starting out, you can get really overwhelmed with trying to learn every single essential oil and what the benefits are and what the cautions and contraindications are and what types of conditions you would use it for. It takes a lifetime to learn all of the different essential oils and what they do. So this sort of categorization makes it a little bit simpler and helps you to get a feel for what types of essential oils are going to do what. So I'll tell you about herbs, citrus, conifer trees, leaves and grasses, flowers, and other trees today in terms of categories. The first one is herbs. Essential oils that go into this herb category include basil, clary sage, rosemary, peppermint, sweet marjoram, oregano, all of the different herbs that you would probably have in your kitchen pantry. And if you think about what herbs do for us in cooking, this is kind of what they do for us with essential oils. All of the herbs are going to usually help with digestion and be stimulate digestion in some way. For example, basil is very good for any stomach upset because it's an antispasmodic, meaning it stops your stomach from spasming if that's your digestion problem. Clary sage and sweet marjoram are also very balancing. They're balancing to the hormones. They're especially good for women who are going through hormonal changes because they work kind of like estrogen. They're plant estrogens. Rosemary is a great one in this category. Usually people like the smell of rosemary, and it's highly anti-mucus. So in the first lecture, I mentioned eucalyptus as being anti-mucus, and that works very well for mucus in the lungs, whereas rosemary is really great for breaking up mucus in the nose. Whenever you have a head cold and you have a very mucousy head, I really recommend rosemary to try to break that up. It has a lot of menthol in it, as well as other chemical constituents that make it highly anti-mucotic. It's also very revitalizing, and it helps with memory and concentration. So if you're a student out there undertaking undergraduate or graduate courses or any sort of courses, it's really good to use rosemary when you're studying for an exam. And then you can use it again on the day of the exam, and it'll help bring back all of your memories of what you studied. It's a great concentration tool. However, rosemary is one of those that it's revitalizing, but if you overdose yourself, if you use it day after day after day after day, then it could also become depressing. So it has kind of a point where it flips and changes its nature. But on occasional use, rosemary is a great one to use for studying and helping with concentration. Peppermint is also a lot of people's favorite. It's very stimulating, and peppermint is one of those that can feel either cool or hot if you're using it for application, depending on the person. Most people will feel it as cool though, so it's very good for like peppermint foot scrubs or foot rubs when you have tired, aching feet. It also works as an analgesic. So if you remember from our history lecture, myrrh is an analgesic. Peppermint is as well. It kind of numbs the skin if it's used in high proportions. I will tell you, be careful when you're blending things with peppermint oil. When I was undergoing my internship at spa, they're a big spa products house and consulting company, and they were trying out a new scrub that had a lot of peppermint oil in it. And as an intern, of course, I was one of the guinea pigs that tried out all of their new products. And they had put too much peppermint in the formulation. And so I remember just being so chilled and cold the entire day after I had tried that peppermint product. But peppermint is a real crowd pleaser. Most people like the smell, and it's very good as a stimulating, bright sort of essential oil. So those are the herbs. They're very easy to use, they're nice in blends, and they're familiar smells that people will generally like. Then we've got citrus oils. Citrus oils in general are going to be very uplifting, and they're going to be cleansing. They're going to cleanse the body's system, so they're immune boosting generally. And you can actually use them in cleaning products. If you decide to make your own home cleaning products, you'll probably be using citrus because they do cleanse not just the body, but also physical items. So in this category, we've got lemon, sweet orange, mandarin, lime, grapefruit. Anything where it's a citrus fruit and you're pressing the essential oil out of the rind. Sweet orange is one of my favorites. It's actually considered to be a very lucky oil. It's supposed to bring prosperity to those who use it. It's uplifting, warming, detoxifying, an antidepressant, and antiseptic. And citrus is probably one of the most cohesive categories in that most of the essential oils in that category are going to have very similar properties. I also like grapefruit, pink grapefruit essential oil, because it's supposed to help with obesity, depression, and it works as an appetite suppressant to those who smell it. So that's citrus oils. Then we've got conifer trees. If you remember from the first lecture, juniper berry is called the Great Eliminator because it's a diuretic. It stimulates the lymphatic system, and it helps the body cleanse itself. And the other conifer tree essential oils listed here, cypress, pine, and cedarwood, are also going to have that property. So conifer trees are great ones to use when you're trying to detoxify from something. This would be very popular. For example, in spas, they use a lot of conifer tree essential oils when they're creating January cleansing treatments for everyone's New Year's resolutions. Other trees are going to have different properties, and this is probably the least cohesive category on my list, because eucalyptus is going to have much different properties than myrrh, and sandalwood will be very different than tea tree. However, most of the other trees are going to be balancing in terms of the energy of them. Tea tree is a great one to have in your natural remedy kit because it kills almost anything that could be ailing you, and it's generally thought to be safe to put on the skin undiluted. So it's antifungal, great for if you have foot fungus, antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitic, so you'll find tea tree in a lot of natural remedies for mites and lice and things like that. Antiseptic, and it's considered to be immune boosting as well. Tea tree unfortunately has a very medicinal smell that a lot of people don't like, so you may have to blend it with other things to make it more acceptable for the person that you're using it on. Sandalwood, on the other hand, is still part of the other trees category, but it has a very deep, woody smell that a lot of people like. It's calming and balancing. It's also antiseptic, and it's considered to be a harmonizing oil. It works with a lot of different fragrances, so you'll find sandalwood in a lot of aromatherapy blends because it blends so nicely with other things. Then we've got leaves, shrubs, and grasses. These are almost always bug repellents. So, citronella candles are widely available as a bug repellent. These other essential oils will generally do the same thing. Mei Chang, the Latin name is Lycia cubeba, that has a very lemony smell, and so does citronella and lemongrass. So most of these will have kind of a lemony note in them, and that can be very calming. So these are generally good for people who are worked up or upset. Geranium is very uplifting, it's calming to the mind and balancing, and it has a beautiful, almost rose sort of fragrance to it. So geranium is a really nice one to have in your kit. Then we've got the flowers. This is a lot of people's favorite category. It includes lavender, neroli, jasmine, and ylang-ylang. Flowers tend to be more expensive essential oils than others because it requires a lot of bulk flowers to produce small amounts of essential oil. And a lot of the processes are more expensive because some of these flowers you aren't able to use steam distillation. You have to use chemical processes or maceration or other things to get the essential oil out of them. Roman chamomile is one that you might be familiar with already if you drink tea. Chamomile is very sedating, and it's the most anti-inflammatory essential oil. So if you have any sort of condition that's inflamed, that's hot, that's puffy, that's red, then chamomile, cool chamomile, is probably going to help with that. It's very relaxing, and it's a great nerve tonic. So if anyone, again, is upset, then chamomile is a very good one to use on that. Ylang-ylang is also relaxing, and it's considered to be uplifting. It has a very sweet smell. It's very expensive, and it's also considered to be an aphrodisiac. Whether you believe that or not, I think that that property has to do with its relaxing properties. So that's just a very brief overview of some of the benefits you could expect from different essential oils. I recommend just getting to know one essential oil a week when you're first starting out. Otherwise, you'll get really overloaded trying to learn all of the different essential oils. You'll get a big reference book, which I'll recommend several of them at the end of the course, and you'll try to learn everything, and it will be very overwhelming. So I recommend just taking maybe one essential oil out of each category as your top 5 or 6 that you start with, and really getting to know that one essential oil over the course of a week, using it in various things, trying it with different blends before moving on, and that way you'll develop a better understanding of it and be able to use it. More is not necessarily better with aromatherapy. You could have a great toolkit with aromatherapy just with 5 or 6 essential oils in them. So don't feel like you have to buy a bunch of essential oils and learn all of them at once.